All right, so in this video, what I want to show you how to do is do the basic setups for really any camera to shoot video. This is really going to be a video for new people. Advanced people, you should know how to do all this stuff. But if you're advanced, you want to stick around, that's fine. And I'll show you how to do all this on the Canon M50. All right, so before we get started, let me explain just a couple things about this video. First of all, this video is really designed for new people who haven't used a real camera to take video a lot. If you've already been using a camera, I'm probably not going to cover anything in here that you haven't seen before. Secondly, I'm going to show you this stuff using a Canon M50 camera. So you're going to see the Canon menu interfaces on this video. If you have a different camera, I'm still talking about the same basic things that you need to know. This is an M50. If you have a different Canon camera, it should have almost all the same settings. They'll apply to your camera as well. All right. So if we take a look, what we got going on here on the screen. This is what's known as red menu number 1. So as you scroll horizontally across the top bar here, and you can't really see this because I'm recording this on the interface, but you're going to have different colored menus as you go across horizontally. This is red menu number 1. I'm going to start here. We'll start with what's called the shooting mode. So if I press the set button on the camera, you can see you have two options here. Manual, which is the one that's highlighted, or the automatic one where the camera makes the decisions. You want to be on the manual one. Okay. So we'll press menu again. Press it one more time. Movie recording quality. So what you're seeing here on the screen is Full HD 23.98p IPB. So what does all this mean? Full HD means that the resolution is 1920 by 1080. It's not 1280 by 720. It's also not 4K. We recommend using 1080p in the video seminar, and I'll tell you why. Most good cameras, and Canon cameras are good cameras, shoot really good quality 1080. And almost everybody's posting their stuff to the internet, and YouTube and Vimeo and Facebook and all this. They put so much compression on this anyway. 4K, which is what most camera reviewers will tell you about, really isn't necessary. Now, can you tell a difference side by side with a high-res monitor? If you're looking really closely, yeah, probably. Does it matter? No. It doesn't. I know it's very contrary to all the gearheads out there, but it's really not necessary. Plus, if you're going to edit 4K, you have to have a much bigger processor and computing power that most people don't have, and you got to have more storage space. So we recommend shooting in 1920 by 1080 full HD resolution. Secondly, the question is, what frame rate should you use? Well, the 23.98 on the Canon system means 24 frames per second. Okay, it's not a true 24, and there's a reason for it. I read an article sometime. It doesn't matter. This is 24 frames per second. And IPB is a compression codec that Canon uses. All right, so these are perfect settings. So I'm going to just press the set button again, and you can see in this camera, you have other options. In this camera, you can also shoot full HD at 60 frames per second, which is the 59.94. And you also have a 24p 4K option as well, which looks good, but on this camera, it gives you a big crop in. So you have to have a shorter lens or pull the camera way back to get the same resolution as you would with full HD. So we just never use 4K. We just shoot everything in 1080p. For talking head stuff sitting here, we use 24 frames per second. If there's moving action, we want to slow it in post, we shoot it in 60. And that's about it. And I've watched a lot of videos from some of the most popular YouTubers out there, the so-called camera professionals, and believe it or not, these are the exact same settings most of them use. Did you know that? Okay, let's jump out of that menu. Let's go to sound recording. Now to show you this, I have a microphone plugged into the camera, a lapel mic, and I'm just going to put it on myself right here. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you next is the audio signal going into the camera. So I'm going to press the set button. Now if you look at the bottom, you can see this attenuator, and it moves with my voice. I'll show you how to set that. So we're on manual, we're going to record level. Now I'm just going to talk at the same audio level and watch what happens to the meter. This is what happens when I turn the meter down. This is what happens when I turn the meter down. see the signal pretty much disappears. Now if I turn it back up, I'm just pressing the toggle to the right of the set button. Now I'm turning it back up, looking for -12, looking for -12, looking for -12, and you can see I'm just about almost at -12 right there. -12 decibels is the optimal recording gain that you want for all of your audio. If you go over that, and I'll press this all the way up, and you can see that now I'm going to start clipping, okay? And so my audio is clipping, and it'll go from yellow to red. I didn't quite go to red. I'm not going to start screaming. Anyway, -12 or a little bit below is where you want to be. And if you don't quite get there, you can always bump the gain in post. All right, so real important you check this audio level thing, because at least if you use this camera, you cannot see your audio while you're recording. If you want to get the Mark II camera, that one will allow you to do it, but the Mark I will not. All right, so press the set button, go back out of the menu again, and that's about it for red menu number 1. Now we'll go to red menu number 2. ISO speed settings. So currently I'm shooting at ISO 1600, and if I wasn't plugged into this system that's capturing the menu, you'd be able to see on the regular camera there's a little tray at the bottom right hand side of the screen that shows you your ISO as well. So there's a couple different ways you can see it. This happens to just be through the menu. You can also set the maximum ISO on this camera. So I go down here and press the set button. I can go to a maximum of 12,800 or a maximum of 6,400. I recommend keeping this at a maximum 6,400, and I also recommend not shooting on this camera at over ISO 1600, because what's going to happen is you're going to introduce a lot of grain or noise, and it just doesn't look good. So you got to pay attention to that. Okay, we'll go out of that menu, and let's go to number 3, and let's talk about white balance. Okay, so white balance is how the camera understands what the color white is. So I press the set button. I'm going to go all the way to the left here. AWB is auto white balance. What that means is you're letting the camera decide in any shooting situation, this is what the color white looks like. On Canon cameras, it's pretty accurate. Okay. Now, if you want to get a little more precise, you can go to daylight, and it tells you what the degrees Kelvin is, 5,200, or you can go to shade, 7,000 degrees Kelvin, and all the other preset colors in the Kelvin spectrum. This icon right here is the custom white balance. So if I press that, come back out, now I've set the camera for custom white balance. Now I'm not going to show you how to do this here, but what you do is you go down to this menu, you have a photograph that you've taken before you come into this menu, and then you tell the camera this photograph represents what the color white is. Typically, if you're going to do it this way, you're going to use an 18% gray card, which is something we talk about in the seminar. Not going to do it here, just showing the camera settings. Okay, white balance correction. I'm going to press the set button on this. What this allows you to do is to go into the white balance manually and preset whichever way you want it to err, ERR, err. Canon cameras tend to slightly overemphasize the magenta color or red, and it really looks too red on my skin tone. So I set my camera with blue and green, that's the BG you see on the right hand side, at a value of 1. That pulls out a little bit of the red. No matter how I set the white balance, it looks better on my skin tone. It's just a personal tweak. If you get one of these cameras, I'd check it out. Okay, picture style. Now, I'm not going to get on picture styles here, but I'm going to tell you this. They're really important. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. You can check them out. Most of the stuff that I shoot is in the Canon picture style standard because I found that it looks awesome. I don't have to color grade it a whole lot. But press the set button, you can see you've got portrait, landscape, fine detail, neutral, faithful, monochrome, and then a couple user-defined ones as well. So lots of different options with this. There are different videos on the YouTube about Canon picture style. I recommend that you check them out, but this is something you definitely want to learn how to use on your camera. And every Canon camera that I've ever used, when I take it out of the box, the factory settings, if it doesn't look good, this is the problem. It's the way the defaults are set on the picture styles. So it doesn't take very long. You learn about color tone, saturation, and sharpness. You'll figure it out. Okay, let's get out of this menu. Number 4, Movie Servo AF. This is a Canon nuance thing. What it means is the focus will follow the subject back and forth. It's called servo. And this is the autofocus method. Just like ISO, you can see this on the screen. This would be in the lower left-hand portion of the camera. This is point autofocus. This is area autofocus or zone autofocus, and this is face tracking autofocus. That's what is available on the M50, on the EOS R, the RP, the R5, the R6, and the Canon brand. You get more different options. This is a lower end consumer level camera, so you get 3 options, which is plenty for most people, but you want to figure out how you want to be focusing, okay? All right, so now I'm on red menu number 5. This is the last menu. And what I want to talk about here is the IS settings or image stabilization. I'm talking about Canon cameras, but this applies to a lot of different cameras. There's 2 different kinds of camera stabilization. There's electronic and there's mechanical. So this camera and all the mirrorless cameras until in the Canon line, the R5 and the R6, did the camera stabilization electronically. They did not do it mechanically. The R5 and R6 have a different system called IBIS, which is mechanical. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. Here's why image stabilization matters. If you're just putting your camera on a tripod, it's not going to have any shake, right? Because it's just sitting there on a tripod. But as soon as you start walking around and vlogging and doing things like that, you're going to introduce camera shake. Image stabilization mitigates that in the camera. So this camera does it electronically. So let me go into this menu here, Digital IS. I currently have it disabled. So there's 3 settings here: disable, enable, and enhanced. Enable is going to introduce what we'll call medium level electronic stabilization. And what that means is the picture is going to get a little bit fuzzier, a little bit not quite as tack sharp as if it's disabled, and it's also going to crop in a little bit. So that's how the software eliminates the micro shake. If you're in an even shakier situation, then you would pick enhanced. That's going to crop in even more than enabled, and it's going to make the picture even softer. Now, I've done a fair amount of experimenting with this, and what I found is this. If you're going to be walking around or hand-holding, choose enable, but if you can, also get a lens that is image stabilized and turn that on. The 15 to 45 kit lens that comes with the M50 is an image stabilized lens. So you have that option. It's terrific, and it works really good. I've tested it, okay? So we'll talk more about stabilization in the seminar, but for now, that's just some settings to get you going on the Canon M50 or another brand of camera if that's what you have.